8 Hall of Famers from one draft class. It didn't just build a team, it built a dynasty. But was that the greatest class ever, or does another year hold the crown? Is it the most Hall of Famers, the most quarterback firepower, or the draft that reshaped the entire league? Let's settle it. These are the top 5 NFL draft classes of all time. Before we dive into the top 5, we need to talk about a class that's still writing its legacy. The 2011 NFL Draft hasn't even had time to fully settle into Canton, and yet it already feels legendary. Start with the first round. It's absurd. Cam Newton went number 1 overall and became league MVP. Von Miller went second, and eventually became a Super Bowl MVP. J.J. Watt was drafted 11th and would become a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. And just when you thought it peaked, the board kept delivering. Julio Jones, Tyron Smith, Patrick Peterson, Cam Jordan, Mike Pouncey, Mike Evans, Pro Bowlers, All-Pros, future legends. Even Mel Kiper couldn't hold back on draft night. This class has more Hall of Fame upside than any I've ever graded. And maybe he was right. Von Miller became the heartbeat of Denver's pass rush. Watt turned Houston into a defensive brand. And Cam Newton, he didn't just win. He brought swagger back to Carolina. And it didn't stop there. Round 2 gave us Andy Dalton, Kyle Rudolph, and Randall Cobb. Round 3, Justin Houston. Round 4, KJ Wright. And in the 5th round, Seattle found a chip on his shoulder corner named Richard Sherman. Did you know 13 of the top 16 picks made at least one Pro Bowl? That's the highest hit rate for a top half of the draft in modern history. This wasn't just a good class, it's a future all-timer. But for now, we're ranking the greatest draft classes ever, based on what's already been written. Let's get to the list. Number 5, 1988, the wide receiver factory. This class didn't start strong. In fact, the number 1 overall pick, Andre Bruce, is often called one of the biggest busts of his era. But after that, the 1988 NFL Draft took off, and it became one of the best wide receiver classes in league history. At number 6, the Raiders took Tim Brown, a smooth route runner from Notre Dame who became the franchise's all-time receiving leader. A 9-time Pro Bowler and a Hall of Famer. Then came Sterling Sharpe at number 7. Explosive, ruthless, uncoverable, and if not for injury, he might have been in the GOAT conversation. It took until 2023, but he finally joined his brother Shannon in Canton. And at number 11, Michael Irvin, the playmaker, the emotional spark of the 1990s Cowboys dynasty, a 3-time Super Bowl champ, and the heart of the triplets with Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith. That's 3 elite wideouts in the top 11 picks, all game changers in completely different ways. And here's something wild. Sterling Sharpe was the first receiver in NFL history to lead the league in receptions, yards, and touchdowns in the same season. He almost didn't even get drafted by Green Bay. Their front office was locked in on a defensive lineman until quarterback Don Majkowski stood up in the war room and said, "Get me a playmaker." Even Chris Berman couldn't hold back during the broadcast. 3 wideouts in the top 11? You better believe they lighted up on Sundays. And they weren't just stars. They redefined entire teams. Irvin made Dallas dangerous again. Brown made the Raiders wide receiver 1 for a decade. And Thurman Thomas, he powered Buffalo through 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. Because this class wasn't just flash, it had grit in the trenches. Randall McDaniel, one of the most athletic guards ever, 9-time All-Pro. Dermontti Dawson, the best center of the 90s, 6 straight All-Pros. Eric Allen, 54 career interceptions, 6 pick sixes, finally inducted in 2024. Thurman Thomas, league MVP in 1991. 7 Hall of Famers, and even outside the Hall, guys like Ken Norton Jr., A.K. Woods, and Anthony Miller brought serious juice. But the very next year, 1989 didn't just deliver stars, it gave us straight-up icons. Number 4, 1989, firepower at the top. The 1989 NFL Draft didn't waste time. It came out swinging with one of the most loaded top 5s in league history. At number 1, the Cowboys took Troy Aikman. the quarterback who would lead America's team to 3 Super Bowl titles in the 90s. He wasn't flashy, but he was tough, accurate, and clutch. The perfect leader for one of the greatest dynasties ever assembled. Then came Tony Mandarich at number 2. A weight room legend, a media frenzy, and one of the biggest busts in NFL history. But what followed was pure gold. At number 3, the Lions grabbed Barry Sanders, a human joystick with ankle-breaking cuts that haunted defenders. 10-time All-Pro, over 15,000 rushing yards, and he walked away from the game at his peak. At number 4, the Chiefs drafted Derek Thomas, a sack machine who once dropped 9 in a single game. That record still stands. And at number 5, primetime, Deion Sanders, the most confident man on the planet. And the rare athlete whose talent matched his swagger. 8-time All-Pro, Super Bowl rings with 2 different teams, and a cultural icon on and off the field. Barry Sanders never rushed for fewer than 1,100 yards in a season. Not once, and still, he retired early. This top 5 was nearly something else entirely. Green Bay was 1 pick away from drafting Deion Sanders. Instead, they picked Mandarich. That single decision rewrote the next decade for 2 franchises. Even the ESPN panel couldn't help themselves. This might be the most explosive top 5 we've ever seen. And they weren't wrong. Aikman built a dynasty in Dallas. Barry gave Detroit its brightest star. And with Deion in the building, Atlanta didn't just get better. They got louder. And the talent didn't stop there. Denver drafted Steve Atwater, a bone-rattling safety who helped lead the Broncos to back-to-back Super Bowl wins. You also had Andre Rison, a 5-time Pro Bowler, and Mark Stepnoski, one of the cleanest technicians on the offensive line in the 90s. 5 Hall of Famers in the first 20 picks, 7 Super Bowl rings, and more highlight reel moments than some entire decades. But the very next year, a brand new franchise entered the league, and its first draft built a defensive empire from scratch. Number 3, 1996, the Ravens are born. The 1996 NFL Draft didn't just introduce new talent. It introduced a brand new franchise, the Baltimore Ravens. And with their first 2 picks ever, they hit back-to-back home runs. At number 4 overall, they took Jonathan Ogden, a 6'9" mountain from UCLA. He didn't just protect the quarterback, he erased defenders. 11 Pro Bowls, a career dominance, and then 22 picks later, Baltimore turned the card in for a linebacker out of Miami, Ray Lewis. Ray didn't just play defense, he was the defense. He hit, he led, he terrified. 2 Super Bowls, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, 13 Pro Bowls, and a legacy fueled by rage and respect. That very first draft class, 2 Hall of Famers, on the first 2 picks, by a team that didn't even exist the year before. And here's the crazy part, they almost blew it. The Ravens were seriously considering Lawrence Phillips with the 4th pick, but Ozzie Newsome pivoted and landed a franchise left tackle instead. That call might have saved the franchise. Ozzie said it best. We weren't just drafting players, we were setting our identity. And identity? This class had it. Ray Lewis became the soul of Baltimore. Brian Dawkins turned Philly's defense into a war zone. Adam Vinatieri kicked New England into a dynasty. Because this draft wasn't just about the Ravens. Across the league, teams found future legends. Marvin Harrison, drafted by the Colts, caught 112 touchdowns from Peyton Manning. Brian Dawkins, last pick of round 2, the emotional engine of Philly's defense. Terrell Owens, taken in round 3 by the 49ers, controversial, unstoppable, unforgettable. Even the Patriots cleaned up. Teddy Bruschi, Lawyer Milloy, and they signed Adam Vinatieri, who'd go on to hit the most clutch kicks in NFL history. Offense, defense, special teams, 1996 didn't just check every box, it filled the roster. But even this deep, star-studded group couldn't match what came next. A draft that reshaped the entire league, one defender at a time. Number 2, 1981, the Defensive Avalanche. If you were building the ultimate defense, you could almost do it with the 1981 draft class alone. It starts at pick number 2, Lawrence Taylor. LT didn't just sack quarterbacks, he broke offensive football. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, 10-time All-Pro, NFL MVP, as a defender. He made coordinators rewrite their playbooks and left offensive linemen begging for help. Bill Walsh, the genius behind the West Coast offense, once said, "We had to invent an entirely new way to block because of Lawrence Taylor." 2 picks later, the Seahawks took Kenny Easley, a safety so dominant he made the Hall of Fame despite a career cut short. And at number 8, the 49ers got their enforcer, Ronnie Lott. Lott was so committed, he cut off part of his finger just to keep playing. And it was worth it. 10-time All-Pro, 4 Super Bowls, and a reputation that still echoes through the league. And here's what most people don't know. Lott almost fell to the second round because of a college injury concern. The Niners took the gamble and landed a cornerstone. CBS announcers said it plain and simple that night. If you're trying to build a defense, 1981 might be your blueprint. And they weren't wrong, because the Avalanche was just getting started. Mike Singletary, round 2, the eyes, soul, and scream of the 85 Bears defense. Howie Long, round 2, a Raiders wrecking ball. Ricky Jackson, the hammer of the Dome Patrol in New Orleans. Russ Grimm, the road grader in Washington's Hogs offensive line. 7 Hall of Famers, almost all on defense, each one a tone setter, each one a nightmare for offensive coordinators. This wasn't a draft class. This was a defensive revolution. But as much as defense wins titles, quarterbacks rule the league. And the class that came next would deliver the greatest collection of QB talent in NFL history. Number 1, 1983, the quarterback class. When it comes to quarterback talent, no draft class, before or since, comes close to 1983. 6 quarterbacks were taken in the first round, 3 became Hall of Famers. And number 1 overall, the Colts drafted John Elway. But Elway didn't just reject the team. He threatened to leave football entirely. He was ready to play for the New York Yankees until a draft day trade sent him to Denver, where he became the face of the franchise. 2-time Super Bowl champ, NFL MVP, and one of the most clutch playoff quarterbacks the game has ever seen. At number 14, the Bills drafted Jim Kelly, but he didn't show up right away. He went to the USFL. And for a while, Buffalo thought they'd lost him, but when he finally arrived, he delivered the greatest run in franchise history. 4 straight Super Bowl appearances. And then at number 27, the steal of the draft, Dan Marino. The 6th quarterback taken, the last one in the first round, and maybe the most talented passer to ever play the game. MVP in just his second year, 5,000 yards before it was normal. Howard Cosell couldn't believe it. "You're telling me 26 teams just passed on this kid? That's insanity." But this class wasn't just about quarterbacks. It was stacked. Eric Dickerson, number 2 overall, broke the single-season rushing record in year 2. Jim Covert, anchor of the 85 Bears offensive line. Bruce Matthews, 14-time Pro Bowler, played every position on the offensive line. Darrell Green, a 20-year corner with Olympic speed and 2 Super Bowls. And in the 7th round, Chicago found a future Super Bowl MVP, Richard Dent, the pass rushing force of the 85 Bears defense. 7 Hall of Famers in round 1, 9 overall, and the greatest quarterback trio the league has ever seen in a single draft. This wasn't just a great class. This was NFL royalty. Some drafts find starters. Some drafts find stars, but these, they found legends. Elway, LT, Ray Lewis, Deion, Marino, one class at a time, they changed the game. Which class gets your vote as the greatest of all time? Drop it in the comments. And as always, stay sharp, stay unscripted.